Hey, NOSA community. Welcome back. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are so glad to have you here. Thanks for being a part of our community. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Shamika. I am the creator and founder of the NOSA Group, the Nurse-Owned Staffing Agency, and we are a thriving group of nurses, healthcare professionals, and others who own healthcare staffing businesses throughout the United States. So we have the great opportunity to connect via social media here on our YouTube channel, as well as our extra large Facebook group and the other social media platforms that we're on to kind of connect, collaborate, work together, share information, and kind of maneuver through this process of running, operating a profitable healthcare staffing business. So one of the things we do on a bi-weekly basis is our office hours, where I chime in about my take on some of your questions. And you also have the opportunity to share any questions that you have. So feel free to drop those questions in the comment section here or on our other social media platforms so we can add it to our list to get my answer on it, as well as feel free to comment for those who have a different take or may have a different experience on your experience as well. So we have a couple of questions for our office hours from last week that I wanted to share. So we're going to continue those two questions. And if you want to join us on Office Hours Live, you can do so every other Wednesday. So next Wednesday, we'll be having office hours at 12 p.m. Eastern. Just jump on, link is below, and join us and drop your questions. So let's get started. So this question is a pretty good question. I like questions that are around the business operational piece of the industry. So the question is, who do you use to file business quarterly taxes? What type of background should they have? Who should you use? And or company should you have? So this is an accounting question. So this is accounting, taxes types of questions. And I get this a lot, especially once you've established your business or you had your business have exponential growth over a short period of time. And you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and ensuring that you're paying those taxes. So you have to pay, typically you have to pay state and federal taxes, but some of that can look different depending on the state you're in. There may be a local tax and some other taxes. But before I answer the question, I do want to throw this little caveat in there in that I am not a tax professional. I am not representing any company or organization. I'm only speaking from my experience and giving suggestions as well as referrals to other people that I either work with in my network or that I've worked with outside who may be of benefit to point you in the right direction. So quarterly taxes. So one of the things that's really important too, as you're kind of getting the setup of your business going, or if you're an established business owner and maybe you just got that first contract or a couple of contracts, and now you're kind of in a rhythm of having people work for your agency and you're running payroll and you're paying your different federal, state taxes, is to make sure that you're on a schedule with a accountant person. So why this question is good to me is because a lot of people make the assumption that you need to have an accountant at the very beginning stages of your business. And that's not always the case. So understanding the roles of like accountant, bookkeepers, and tax professionals, and those types is really key because they fit into your business in different ways. So in my outlook and kind of my perspective, your accountant is kind of giving you like that overview. They're the person that's going to kind of look at, hey, what the business is doing, what type of business, what type of entity you have, kind of what are some of your financial goals, where the money is going, how it's going outside of the business. They're kind of looking at that overall picture. So yes, it's important to have an accountant in your business. But the other two people that have a really key role in your business are your bookkeeping and your tax professional or tax specialist, depending on, where you're located, is because those people actually manage more of the day to day. So they'll kind of execute a lot of the directions, information that your accountant provides. Hey, this is your estimated tax for the year. You should pay it quarterly. This is how you should break out the payments. And a lot of this is based on like forecasting, which I think is really good, a great thing to do, and something that a lot of people do around this time of year. You want to forecast out what you plan the business to do. It's hard to come up with your tax amount if you don't have an amount of the actual revenue that the business is going to be taking in. And then, of course, the third piece is like payroll taxes, which is something that your system should be doing. So if you're paying out employees, your system should be pulling those payroll taxes, Medicare, and things of that nature. So I don't think this question is so much about that. So I'm not gonna touch too much on that. But you the main thing is you want to have an accountant. Does the accountant need to be internally a part of the firm? Maybe, maybe not. But I think the people that do need to have like a part of your organization on a day-to-day basis is definitely your bookkeeper and your tax professional. And your bookkeeper is because that's the person that's looking at the books, making sure everything adds up, everything reconciles, hey, this is what this was for, this is how it was spent, this is where it went. Allows you to better itemize, individual items on your spreadsheet and things of that nature, provide more consolidated reporting about, hey, your income and loss statements, your profit and loss statements, um, any types of, spreadsheets that you need to see, hey, how is the business doing? Is the business losing money? Are we gaining money? Do we have too much overhead in this area? Are we top heavy over here? So they give you a more visual space around numbers. And then the tax professional or specialist will really make sure that, hey, based on where we're going, there will assess on a regular basis. It could be quarterly. Most of the time it's quarterly. Hey, this is how much we've paid so far. This is kind of where we'll be as we go towards the end of the year so that you can make the appropriate adjustments. And those two roles are a little bit more crucial in the day-to-day operations of the business that your traditional accountant may or may not do. And I've seen some NOSAs, even myself, have outsourced those roles where you're able to kind of sit down with your accountant and all that information around the taxes, um, you know, the bookkeeping to kind of go through and make sure that things are on track with where you anticipated it to be. And also, your bookkeeper and your tax professional typically work hand in hand, and they provide a lot of insight as far as like any business credits or any changes to business laws. I know we're seeing some, I think it's in 2024, that there'll be some changes to like business entities and things of that nature where they can provide information and resources for you if you wanted to make like different changes. For instance, if you were a agency who was an agency of one or a 1099 contractor that was kind of transitioning into being a company where you actually had individuals working for your organization through payroll. So those types of conversations are always great to have with those individuals because typically that's what they specialize in. So they'd be up to date on those different topics. Um, who should I use? What type of background should the person have or any company? I encourage people to, of course, get referrals when it comes to looking for either individuals and or companies to work with, especially in an area that you may not have a strong knowledge base. So referrals is really good. Some things around getting referrals or even working with new companies is that you want to have a list of questions. So it doesn't have to be a different list necessarily. You want to have a list of questions that kind of gives you the information around their experience, their background. Do they work with small companies? Do they work with companies that are, LLCs or S corps or um, whatever entity you're set up as? You want to know what their background is. And then some of your really quality companies should also be able to refer you to businesses that they work with where you can have conversations with individuals about their experience. So that would be some of my take on that question. This is a really good question as we're ending the year and a lot of us are kind of, putting together our information to file our taxes. In my experience, for the state level, that's something that you typically do quarterly. Federal can be quarterly, but kind of estimating your tax burden, tax credits, those things like that. This is a nice time to kind of look at your books and kind of see where you stand as far as that's concerned. As far as like an accountant, or some people may have like a CFO, they have a same licensing and credentialing process as nurses do. So you would look them up online, like if you're going to work with an accountant, and make sure that they have specific qualifications, but also don't neglect looking at some of your free resources. So a lot of companies like organizations like Small Business Administration, scores have access to resources for not only companies, but individuals that work specifically with small businesses. But we have some information in our directory, so definitely check out our directory of some resources. And then I also know some of the larger companies like QuickBooks, Intuit, Paychecks offer those types of supplementary services. But initially, I think the two roles that I think are important from this question is making sure that you have a tax person that can explain, give you information and guidance around, tax laws, as well as a bookkeeping person that really makes sure that your books are clean, make sure that they're, reconciled, and that as you get closer to the end of the year, or if you're having a yearly or bi-monthly or quarterly meeting with your accountant, you're operating from accurate information about, hey, this is what we did last year, this is what we're anticipating next year, and you're looking at real numbers. So I hope that answers your question. All right. As always, if you're not following us, feel free to follow us on all our social medias as we're hanging out everywhere. We do have some new upcoming places that we'll be posting, and we'll be sharing that in September. But you can always check out our website where you can get some information about some of our latest and upcoming events, as well as check out some of our really nice blogs that talk more in depth about some of the questions that you guys have. Also, we're on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and of course, YouTube and Instagram. So you can check us out there as well. And feel free to drop your questions there too. And then on to our last and final question. And this is also kind of like a accounting, billing related question as well. So that's why we wanted to include it. And this question is, are you billing clients for orientation hours, regular or reduced rates? And I've answered this question before, but I haven't answered it in a while. And the answer is yes. You bill for everything unless you've negotiated with that client not to do it. And this is a good question because when you look at your contract and you think about what are the pieces of the contract that I want to make sure that I have in place, this is a good thing to have in place. So if you have, and that's what you've negotiated with your client, orientation hours, then you want it as a line item on the contract that you send to the client. You don't want it to be an afterthought because some clients don't think that they should be billed for orientation hours. And then you also want to have clear language around what is orientation hours, how long is orientation hours. And those are all opportunities to have more in-depth conversations with your client. Hey, for every new person, we want to do a 4 hour, 6 hour, 12-hour shift. Is it based on their experience? Is it based on their background or specialty, or how long they've been in that particular industry or been a nurse? So you want to have that conversation, and then whatever you guys agree upon, you want to put it in there. Hey, for new employees to this organization with less than a certain amount of years of experience will complete a 4 hour orientation at this bill rate. So on to the second part of her question. If you do bill for orientation hours, are you billing regular or reduced rates? Again, that's a conversation that you want to have with your client to determine that. I would say, just on my experience, a lot of times clients want a reduced bill rate for orientation hours. And that's why I use the example of it being 4 hours. And sometimes it's getting oriented to the building if it's a big building or if they have special computer systems. And that typically shouldn't be something that's an all day or like a 12-hour shift. But depending on your dynamic and how, you know, the discussions you've had and some of the stuff you can do preliminarily by going to the facility or hospital system and actually getting a feel for, hey, is this a place that may require my employees to need to be oriented, or is this a place where you can kind of get in and move through the process fairly swiftly, um, as far as getting acclimated. So regular or reduced rates, I would say majority of the time it's reduced rates. Majority of the time it's not anything more than 4 hours. Whether it's one or the other, you want to make sure that you've communicated it verbally as well as in writing so that when they sign the contract, there's no question. And then, you want to make sure on the timesheets that the people are indicating so that there's no confusion on your part that, hey, this 4 hour time block is for orientation, some sort of annotation or note. So I hope that answers your questions. If you guys want to share any of your experiences and how you've done it, feel free to share. um, and I think that's all we have. Again, feel free to join us and follow us, as well as join us this coming Wednesday for our live office hours, as we'll have some more questions to answer. If you want your question answered, go ahead and drop it in the comment section here, and we'll add it to our list of questions that we'll answer either here on a recorded session, or we'll answer during office hours. As always, thanks for being a part of our community, and we look forward to seeing you soon.